guys, it's Varun here, and welcome back to another Android Studio tutorial video. In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit more about text and about buttons. So let's get to it. So starting where we left off in the last video, we didn't talk about all the different things that we could do with text views. So for now, you guys have learned how to position them. So we talked about these width and height and the gravity and the weight. And those are all sort of elements that position the item on the screen. But now we want to talk about actually editing the text of it and maybe giving some color to it. So how do we do that? So a lot of different things that you could probably think that you could do to a text view. You know, changing the color, changing the background, changing the size. These are all things that we can do. And all the attributes are, conveniently named. So text color will just be text color. And if we want to change the text color to black, for example, we can use the hashtag codes, or hex codes is what they're, not hashtag codes. They're called hex codes. But we can use these hex codes, and so for black, I believe it's FF. Nope, that's white. Black should be all zeros, right, there we go. So, if you're like me and you don't remember any of the hex codes, an easy way to edit this is by clicking on the little color icon you see over here. So whatever color that you put over here, it'll always give you a little preview in this corner over here. So if you ever want to change the color, you can come and click on this icon over here, and it'll give you a nice color picker. So, I don't know, let's give it a nice deep blue. Okay. And there we go, our text is now blue. And if we want to copy this text color for all of them, just copy paste it. Alright, so now we have a nice blue for all our text. So now we want to change the size. Now changing the size, we have two ways to do that. The first way to do that is simply using the text size. And this is, you think of size, you type in size, and the attribute is conveniently named. But the way that you actually use text size is a little bit different from what you would think. So, in Microsoft Word or any other, Google Docs, anywhere like that, for text size, you just put in, say, a number, and you just leave it like that. But with Android Studio, you have a lot of other options. As you start typing already, you see all these other options. So you can specify it with DP, like we talked about earlier. DP gives you that look across all phones. So no matter what phone you're using, it looks the same. So we can look at it in terms of that. Or we could use actual measurements, which is not the best thing to do, because if you want to make your text size 32 inches, I don't think anyone has a 32-inch phone, so that's probably not a good idea. But the most commonly used text size, or unit, is SP. And SP is sort of restricted only to text, because it gives similar, we talked about how DP gives a unique size. SP kind of uses that for text. So on a user's phone, say that maybe they're an elderly person and they can't see very well, and they want to have the text a little bit larger on their screen. So by using SP, Android kind of recognizes this SP value, and it knows how to scale that SP value to what the user wants. So it just makes our app more user-friendly to anyone who has custom text options on their phone. So that's usually the reason why we use SP. And also SP has the same features of the DP, where we talked about how it looks the same across all different types of phones. So that's the good thing about SP. So we'll go ahead and use that. But there's also another way to do text size. And that way is by using the text appearance. And text appearance is similar to, it gives a sort of Android standard size. So sort of how we talked about that customization, about how Android will know what the size is by using this SP, it'll know even better if you use text appearance. Because text appearance uses predefined values that you can pick from. So the only ones that you can pick from are really small, medium, and large. And the way we use that is we say question mark Android, and with this attr we get access to Android attributes, and we say text appearance large. So say we want it large, we say text appearance large. Text appearance medium, we have medium. So there's a lot of other different options that we can use. So for now we'll just go ahead and use large. Where'd it go? Text appearance large. There it is. So now that we've talked about the text view for a bit, let's talk about some other elements. So before we move on, I'm just going to get rid of these text views so we have a nice clean slate to work with, and I'm also going to change the layout back to a relative layout that we had before. Okay. So now we have a relative layout, and let's talk about the edit text. So an edit text is a way for the user to enter in some sort of text or numbers that we can then do whatever we want with. So to make a new edit text, we say edit text, and let's give it a width of 30 dp. Enter, and let's just make the height as wrap content. And like we did before, let's also put this in the center of the screen. So if you remember what we did with relative layouts to put these in the center of the screen, we said align, center horizontal. And of course, if we want it to be in the center, we just say true. So now that we have an edit text in the center, let's also make this a little bit bigger so we can see it a little bit better. There we go. So now we have this edit text in the middle of our screen. And another element that we can also add to this is a button. So let's go ahead and add another button. And once again, we can change the width, height, and all that. Let's make the width similar. Let's make it 60 dp. Let's also make it wrap content. And we'll also use the IDs. So if you remember, when we used the IDs, we also got to use the above and below features with the relative layout. So let's go ahead and do that. If we use an ID of, let's say, user text, and we say give this button ID of, we just say button. So now that we have that, let's also, so there we go. So now we have the ID. Let's now put this button below that. So if you remember how to do that, we just say layout below, and we say the ID of user text. And let's also put this in the center of the screen. Alright, there we go. So now we have an edit text and a button on the screen. But what do we do with this? So to make the edit text and button actually respond to what we do, we need to connect it with Java. So far we've only messed with the XML part of it. So we've created layouts, we've positioned them on the screen, but we haven't really made them interactive. So let's go ahead and do that. So going back to the Java file, if you remember what we went over is we talked about the main activity being the name of the activity, and we said that it had all the functionality of an activity when we have this extends an activity over here. And we also talked about the onCreate method that gets called by Android automatically when the page is created. So far it's a pretty blank template. There's not much going on. But if we want to connect the edit text and the button to the actual Java, we need to create them in the Java file. So to link it to that, what we do is we make objects of those elements. So if we have an edit text over here, we'll go ahead and make an edit text over here, and we can name it what we want. So the name of the edit text doesn't have to be the same name of the ID that we gave. That's an important thing. So you can name it you can have the ID be one thing, and you can have the name over here be another. So we also have we have a button, but we'll just name that button for now. Alright, so now we have an edit text and a button, but they're not really doing anything. So to actually link the the objects that we created here and the objects we have over here, we need to do a process that's called typecasting. And the whole typecasting feature, or how it works, is we say an edit text, for example. So we say the object that we want to connect, and we say that's equal to parentheses that same object. So we have an edit text. We would say parentheses whatever that object edit text in this example. So if we have a button, we say button over here. If we have a text view over here, we say text view in this parentheses. So whatever object that we have over that we're declaring over here is what we need to have in this parentheses. And the final step of that is we say find view by ID. Now what this method does is it goes and looks through all the IDs and it tries to find the ID that we want to connect it to. So we say R, which is the resources folder, .id, so it knows to look in the ID folder, and we say user text. So now it's going and finding the ID of user text in all the IDs that we created, and it finds the user text over here and connects this edit text to the one we have over here. So similarly, following that whole process for the button, we say button in parentheses, and once again find view by ID, and we say r.id.button. And now this button is connected to the button we have over here. Now to make our app actually interactive, we need to tell the Android app to listen for something. So listeners are really important in Android because they're always running for a specific event. So say in this example, we want the user, or we want the Android system to be able to detect when the user actually clicks the button. And that on its own is a specific type of listener. So if we want to make a listener for that, and we want to tell the Android system, hey, just look and listen if the button gets clicked, then go ahead and do this, this, and this. So to make a button listener, what we do is we say button.set onClick listener. And what this is going to do is it's going to listen for whenever this button is clicked. And to make a new onClick listener, we just say new. And as soon as you start typing onClick, you just need to type in the O. You'll get this first example, and you can just go ahead and hit enter, and it'll do all the rest for you. And it creates this method called onClick. And basically whatever you have in this between these two parentheses is what's going to be executed when the button is clicked. So if we want the button to respond to a certain event, or if we want the button to do something when it's clicked, that's what we would put in here. So for now, let's put another text view. Alright, and we'll just say wrap content, and we'll just give it an ID of text view. And we'll also put it below the button. And we'll also center it. Center horizontally. True. Alright, so now we have this text view that's below here. But for now, it doesn't have any text. But that's what we want to change. So when the button is clicked, say I want to take what I had in this edit text, and I want to take what we had in that edit text and store it as the new text of the text view. So before we do anything in the onClick method, so when it's clicked, let's make the text view that we just created over here as well. And we say text view. And we say text view is equal to, once again, the parentheses, and we say the text view. And we look for that ID, and we say the ID is text view. Okay? So there we have the text view right there. So now we want to take whatever the user entered in this edit text, and as soon as someone clicks on the button, we want to take what we had in edit text and put it in the text view. So the way we do that is with a specific set of methods, and one of those is called setText. So when the method is clicked, the text views, whatever the text value of the text view is going to be changed. And it's going to be changed to the edit text dot get text. So what we have going on here is the button is clicked, and when the button is clicked, this method is called, and what happens is the text view now has whatever we entered in to the edit text. So the get text feature goes ahead, grabs what's in the edit text, and puts it in the text view. So now if we want to see this in action, we need to create an emulator. And in the next video, I'll talk about creating an emulator, especially for those of you whose computers, we were in the meeting and we had some trouble with the computers. I'll talk about that in the next video, about setting up an emulator. But for now, I'll go ahead and set up my emulator and we'll get it running. So now I have an Android emulator running, and so let's test what we had. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it, and here's our app. So right now, we didn't actually put any text for our button, so the button is just blank. But let's go ahead and test and see if our listener that we had is actually working. So let's type in hello world. And if we hit enter, there we go. So that's basically how the listener works, and did exactly what we expected it to. You know, we had the text view, and we said change that text to whatever the edit text has as a value of. So if we change what's in here to, let's go back, change, my name or something. So, if you change it and you hit the button, it grabs what's over here and just puts it puts it down there. So that's how, the listener works. And this basically opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. You could make this button do almost anything you want to do on the screen. So you could have the text view change you could even have it change the color of the button. So say for example, if the button was clicked, let's say button dot set, and it's good if you can mess around with these things, because if you look at the set, as soon as you start typing in set, you'll see all these different things that you can have. So some of the main ones, you have the set visibility, and you can change the visibility, so you can make the button go invisible if you click on it. You could, this is what we want to change the color. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say set background color, and let's say color dot blue. Okay, so when the button is clicked, it's going to turn blue. So let's run the app and let's see what happens. Okay, now that our app is running, let's test what we had going. So let's once again just type in something. And now that when we click on the button turns blue, and it does what we told it to do before. So this, opens up a whole bunch of new possibilities for you to get excited about. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do with the on-click listener, and that's basically the main way that users interact with the screen. We have a whole bunch of listeners on the screen. They're all listening for one specific thing, and when something on the screen changes, it acts appropriately. So in the next video, we'll talk about how to set up this emulator that I have running, so that you can start writing your own, make your own buttons, make your own text views, put your own edit text in, and start messing around with that on your own. And yeah, so we'll talk about the next one, and I'll see you then. Alright, bye.